So today is our very last day on Noeta 46, hull 37. We've been on this Nordhavn for 15 months, and today we finally packed everything up into a 6 by 7 by 10 foot container. That's 300 square foot of stuff, and we're having it shipped off to Rhode Island to go put it on our new Nordhavn, a 50. Hull number 20.
Okay, welcome to Noeta. Today we're going to give you a tour of the inside and the outside of the boat. Hey, here we are again. This is Noeta 57. Today we're going to compare the 3 Nordhavns that we have owned and lived on over the past 8 years. Welcome aboard. We are Alexa, Pat, and Gilligan the Fat Boat Cat. Follow us as we live aboard and cruise the U.S. and Mexico on our 57-foot Nordhavn Noeta with no ETA. So today's video is about comparing the 3 Nordhavns that we've lived on in the last number of years. And so we want to give you a comparison of what it felt like living on them, their systems, what we like best, what the challenges were on each. So we'll go through the 46, the 50, and the 57 in this episode, just to give you an idea, since we've lived on all 3. We've had other boats,
Yes.
but when it came to living aboard, those are the only 3 we've lived on. Yeah?
We lived on the Albin for like a month.
Okay, we lived on an Albin Express trawler. It was 36 feet with a dog
4
and
of
a
us.
cat and 2 kids. So that was an adventure. So it only got better from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so with each boat, when we got it, they were all perfect for our stage in life and what
Yeah.
we were doing at the time and our budget and whatnot. And so we have fond memories of all of our boats.
Yes.
They're
They're all great boats in their own unique way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we appreciated something awesome about the next boat each time we
Yeah.
did it. But all of them, I would say, needed upgrades and works when we got them.
Yeah.
Lots of upgrades, but they were all sound boats, wouldn't you say? I mean,
They were all sound. They had good bones, as people say. We just needed to tweak them and upgrade them, and
yeah.
some more than others.
Some were still working.
Some
on.
had great shafts.
Yeah, well, actually.
Actually, no.
Only 2.
Only 2. Only one.
Of the 3 Nordhavns, only one had a shaft that was in, as far as we know, good working condition. But now they are all in good condition. So in 2017, we were living in Gig Harbor, Washington. We moved aboard a 46 Nordhavn. What hull number?
It's 4637.
4637.
No Flybridge, Paravane only.
Wide body.
It was asymmetric, so
Right. So the walk around was just on the one side.
Yeah.
It had 2 staterooms, 2 heads. But the trick with that is we had 2 teenagers living on board with us and a dog at the time and a cat. Well, now
well, you all know the cat.
everyone knows the cat. But but it's what we could do at the time when we were ready to go cruise the world. So we spent a year in Washington living aboard, working our normal lives, kids doing their normal thing, and prepping it to go
Yeah.
to Mexico. Yeah, so then we left for Mexico in the 46, and then got to San Francisco and realized the space was just not enough for all of us to travel.
Well, we
and
had
live on it.
2 teenagers. One was spending most of his time sleeping in the pilot house, the captain's berth.
Yeah, it just wasn't fair.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Pat, who's always on Yacht World anyway, like many people I think are,
boat porn.
it is. He ended up spotting this one, the 5020, the 20th one built
Yeah.
in Rhode Island. And it had just popped on the market. And we called Don Coleman and said, we think we like this boat. And we followed through. We packed up the 46, packed up the kids. We'd only owned that one for 15 months. But we made her beautiful in that
Yeah.
time. So then we moved on the 50. It was also the wide body, just the walk around on one side.
Starboard side,
It didn't have the paravanes, but it had underwater stabilization.
active fin.
That's what it had. But the good part is that it had 3 staterooms, and so that was big. The kids each had their rooms.
And it felt twice as big.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got that 50, cruised it down the coast. We had it shipped, which was a little stressful, from Fort Lauderdale to La Paz. And finally we got to Mexico. on the 50, which is where we spent the last 6 years on that 50, happily, until the story of the buying of the 57, which there's a video for that one, and you can click here. But we bought this 57 in Homer, Alaska. In Homer, Alaska. And it's 57, we're back to a 2-stateroom. The kids are off the boat. We didn't need the individual space like that, but we do want bigger beds for when they come to visit and partners and whatnot. Yeah. And 57, again, underwater stabilization, wide body. This has a flybridge. Neither of the other two had flybridges. And we've been loving it for about 6 months.
Yep.
Yeah, so we love living on the 57. But the main things we want to talk about is the difference between these 3 boats. And so we are going to address, there's size and cost. Those are the 2 big obvious ones on any boat you're going to buy. But other differences like just how to access things and the handling of the boats and the even the windshield style, the flybridge, the whole design, the systems, and the number of systems and type of systems on boats. So we'll kind of compare all of those. So as far as size, when you go to a bigger boat, everything gets bigger. The water tanks, the holding tanks, the engine size.
Fuel burn.
Fuel usage, the amount of fuel you hold. So that's good and bad. We hold more water. Our holding tank holds more crap. The fuel tank is more expensive.
We're full of crap.
We are full of crap, a lot more full of crap. But also the living space in general is the big one for us.
Yeah.
It's shocking going back to the 50 and the 46 size, looking even at old pictures at how that space just gets smaller and smaller. I think with 2 people, 46 and 50. 46 is a great boat.
46 was a great boat, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. If that's the only way you can get into one of these Nordhavns, I would recommend especially a later model 46. They're very sea-kind, efficient, cheap to operate.
Yeah.
Our fuel burn was a straight John Deere engine, 130 horse. We would be doing 6.5, 7 knots with a pair of vanes in the water, and we're burning 1.8 gallons an hour.
Yeah, super efficient. So it's a great boat. It is a great boat for 2 people. I will also say size and space. The pilot house in the 46, when we bought it, didn't have a helm chair.
No, we added a pilot.
No helm chair.
Yeah, we added a helm chair, which was
it made it tight.
A little process. We had to change the pilot house table, made it smaller, but the helm chair was nice because otherwise, if you were going to be operating, on the controls, you'd be standing. You could be standing for quite a while.
Yeah.
On a passage, we found even on the 57 that we were sitting back here on this couch, settee quite a bit.
Yeah.
But
and then in the 50 we had 1 helm chair, which is great. But the 57 now we have 2. I mean, it took a while to get them here, but we did get 2 chairs. And so again, with the space and the size, it just we like having 2 helm chairs. Turns out we both sit up there a lot. Not everybody needs that, but we really enjoy having that space. The other thing with size is kind of the shape of the body of these boats. 46 cuts back at the end.
46 was a very, very efficient hull, very clean, pretty simple. It was basically a completely round bottom, and that was good efficiency-wise. But the boat was very tippy, especially when the paravanes weren't deployed because the arms are straight up.
That's right.
So the boat would really
or you'd even step on one side of the boat and it would move, and which is normal for a lot of boats. But now in the 50 and the 57, that's not a normal thing. It doesn't move when someone steps on board. But also in the body size, there's the issue of the walk-arounds. 46 and the 50, we couldn't access the port side of the boat. Walking around. So for docking...
Well, you can't on this one either, but there's a boarding door.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The 57 has advanced, so there's like a partial walk around on the port side, and there's a boarding door, and there's a door out the galley, and we've never had a door to access that side. We had transoms, but they were the 50 transom was small. The
46 had a door in the cockpit.
They did have a door in the aft cockpit, so you'd have to get that aft spot before I could step off the boat. So you just had to perfect your docking.
The 46... the 46s, a lot of them didn't have swim steps. Ours didn't have a swim step off the stern.
That's right. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Some people added them later.
Yep.
I don't know if the factory, if Nordhavn ever did. I suspect they were all aftermarket.
Yeah,
Ours
that's
didn't
right.
have one.
Yeah, it was more like the sailboat.
Yeah.
But now we do. And now we have an extended one on this 57 that somebody has
Yeah.
added at one point, which is really nice. Makes that for swimming and getting off of dinghies and stuff that much better. The 50 swim step is pretty small. And again, some people extend that, but it was pretty
Yeah.
small. Other part about body shape is the bulbous bow. 46 did not have it, but the 50 and the 57
Yes.
do. Bulbous bow is for...
It makes it more efficient. It basically makes a displacement hole boat will only go through the water so fast. And the bulb makes the hole more efficient and basically tricks the hole into thinking it's bigger than it is, and it goes faster through the water.
And it's a really great spot to put a happy face.
Yes.
Yes. Of course, you get bigger and then the cost goes up. And it's not just the cost of the boat. It's the cost of the fuel and the moorage and the insurance and the amount of oil and the amount of filters. And so when you decide to go bigger, you have to consider all of those extra things that go with it. Because cost, it's always, well, it's an issue for us always. For most people, it's a consideration. So it's not getting bigger means all of your costs.
We are on a budget.
Yeah, we are. We cruise on a budget, and we're putting our third kid through college, and so we
one more semester.
Yes. So it is a consideration for us. It's we're not what we term as credit card captains, where you just throw credit cards at things. We got to be able to fix it ourselves. We have to be able to work on it ourselves. And we need to be able to pay for all the zincs and the extra things that come with these boats.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a consideration of the bigger you go, obviously, the more you're going to spend. And then there's accessibility, access to things on the boat. So with bigger, then now you have the bigger engine room. So explain the difference between
the 46, the engine room was accessible. Ours was the R46 was a master forward, and the mid cabin was the bunk beds. And the engine room access on that boat was through a door in the bunk room.
Hands and knees.
And I would literally hands and knees. I had to crawl around everything. Everything was accessible, but it was hands and knees.
Yeah, and you were tight and cramped. And
now, fortunately, in a seaway, it was the exact center of motion on that boat. And we were in 6-foot seas, and you couldn't even feel the boat moving in the engine room.
Yeah. And that's probably been on every
Yeah.
Nordhavn we've had. Yeah. And then in the 50, we get to that one, and it was all exciting because all he knew was the 46, and we get in the 50, and you can't stand, but it's kind of a hunch, and then there's benches on the sides that you can sit on.
Yeah, same thing. Engine, everything was accessible, but I had to kind of was bent over, but I could access everything and basically walk. But there was benches I could kind of sit and slide around. It was, you just get bigger and things get a little easier.
And then we get to this one, and I can stand at full height. He's got just a little bit of a hunch. And the back end section is kind of hands and knees, but there's plenty of width. And so that makes a difference. You have some shoulders on you, so that does make a difference.
All of them I don't really fit through the door.
Yeah. Even on this one, he does kind of a pivot to get into it.
Bit.
But so access is nice. I will say, like access storage, I still believe somehow the 46 had the most storage of all the boats. And I think maybe there's just more living space. But even from the 46, we went to move to the 50, and I had no idea where everything was going to go. And I feel we're still unpacking storage, and I'm like, where are things going to go? Well, and we've had to get rid of a ton of things. I will say the other thing about access is on the 46 and 50 and our boats, and they're all a little different, the access to the engine room was through the master stateroom. So he'd be going in and he'd be working on projects, and all the project stuff would be on the bed, and then he'd have to lift himself out of the engine room, and there'd be handprints. And so that access, now the 57 on this boat,
a dedicated door and stairway to the engine room.
It has a door we can close off that goes down a different stairwell into the engine room, and the master stateroom is just the master stateroom. And so, and again, each boat's different. There are some 57s where there is engine room access in the master, right?
I don't think there's a lot, but
no, but it was an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why you'd want that, but You could. Okay, performance on the between the 46, 50, and 57.
Well, clearly, bigger is always faster.
Yes. Well, in this case.
Yeah, and especially in this case. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of boats that are in the Nordhavn fleet that are as fast and as efficient as the 57.
Right.
You can get into the bigger boats and they'll be quicker, but your fuel burn goes up drastically. The guy we bought the boat from, he did 100,000 miles on this boat, and he's like 1,200 RPM, 5 gallons an hour, 8.7 knots, and you can do 3,500 nautical miles.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
I think personally this is a boat I always wanted, and I think this is probably the best boat that Nordhavn made.
Yeah.
The 50 was not as fast. It's a solid 7.5, 8 knot boat all day. It would burn 3.5, 4 gallons an hour.
Yeah.
It handled well. We were happy. I loved that boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, with the 46, while it was super efficient, we went 6.5 knots.
Yeah,
right?
with the paravanes deployed, and those that don't know, the big arms come out, and they're basically these heavy weighted diamond things that go down in the water. Ours were about, 20 feet underwater or so, and there was chains, and that adds quite a bit of drag. So the boat without the paravanes would do 7.5. With the paravanes, realistically, it was a 6.5 knot boat.
Yeah, and how the paravanes worked great.
They worked great, and
they were manual.
They were simple.
Yeah.
Inspecting them was easy. You could literally just look at all the components. You knew.
Hey, here, let me come down.
And we're back. Thank you for that interruption.
Sorry. Another
A friend on a 62 just stopped by to say hi. So
on Island Greeter. So we had to say hi.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So,
yeah.
But we were talking about paravanes, stabilization on the 46.
The 46, really simple. Deploying them and retrieving them was complicated, but they worked.
Mm-hmm. There's no buttons, nothing
Yeah.
electrical, nothing to fail that sense, except when we caught it on the crab pot.
Yeah.
It's a physical thing.
Middle of the night,
Yeah.
off the Oregon coast, we snagged a crab pot. So it took all 4 of us to get it off the line.
To release it. So
Yeah.
there's always that thing. You have one more thing dragging in the
Yeah.
water. But, and then when you want to come in, and we were coming in under horrible, crappy circumstances, we have to get them up.
Yeah,
and it's
when do you
very
retrieve
physical.
them?
Yeah, retrieving them is a physical labor. So, and both the 50 and the 57, we have ABT stabilization.
Hydraulic, push a button, and they work.
Except in that one time when they didn't in La Paz.
When we were leaving La Paz to actually come over to Vallarta, we were leaving the marina and pushed the button, and we got all sorts of horns, alarms.
Yeah.
And we finally isolated it to the panel itself was completely dark. We ended up having to change the motherboard, the gyro, and the control panel, which ABT was awesome. They have a whole kit for that.
Yeah, so the more complex you get in stabilization brings other issues.
Brings more complexity.
I suppose a perfect one, and there are Nordhavns out there with both, where you have paravanes and underwater stabilization.
The 46s, 40s had both, or could have both, and I don't think the 43s did. I think that's when they got away from paravanes.
Yeah. So another difference between the ones that we've had, well, actually all boats, would be just handling and navigating the boats. The big difference for me, I noticed, is 46 and 50, you're kind of locked in the pilot house. The ones we had didn't have any wing stations or flybridge or anything. And so you can't see much of what's going on around you. We got really good at headsets and communication that way.
Couldn't see anything to stern.
Right.
If you're backing down.
You don't know what's going on back there. Versus the 57, now we have 5 stations from which you can...
The pilot house, 2 wings, the flybridge, and then there's a station on the cockpit as well.
Yeah, which would be used, I guess, we've heard for maybe if you're fishing and you need to navigate from the aft cockpit or something.
But honestly, everything docking, we're on either wing because you can see the entire length of the boat.
Right. So docking in, I actually docked this one before Pat did. to me, this is a lot less intimidating, even though it's a much bigger boat.
No, you didn't. I docked it when I brought it in from.
Oh, after. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I put it in the sling next.
She did drive it more than I did initially.
Initially, that is true. But because you can be outside looking around, also, I suppose, because we have both a stern and a bow thruster, which we haven't had.
No.
And so that's
Well, you
a good
don't.
thing.
Fortunately, like the 46 and the 50, it had bow thruster, electric bow thruster. This boat's all hydraulic. You'd want to be careful with the usage and the hydraulic. It'd take a lot for it to overheat. But the rudders on these boats were so big that you can essentially operate it, that you rudder hard over, and the boat will just pivot on itself.
In terms of docking and handling in tight spaces, bigger boat, but this one you can just see what's going on a little better. You've got the control of the stern better than we've ever had.
Yeah.
So in this case, bigger actually got easier.
It's always that way. It's that way in an airplane.
Is it?
Yep.
Bigger's easier?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm going to
More to manage, but it is easier.
I'm going to trust him on that. So, the other thing this boat has that the others didn't is a flybridge, and that's a very personal choice we've learned in boaters. We had a boat with a flybridge for a bunch of years before our Nordhavns and loved it. Spent a
Yeah.
lot of time up there in the Northwest. Anytime it was sunny, we're there.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it's not.
But it is personal. A lot of people
Don't want flybridges.
don't like it, don't
Yeah.
want it, they don't use it, they never go up there.
It's
and
extra systems.
Yeah, and they view it as one more thing to maintain.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like operating the boat up there. You can see everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And we like to just sit up there in the
Yeah.
afternoons when we're at a dock. It's just, you can see everything from up there. So we do very much like the flybridge. It was a selling point for us,
Yeah.
the fact that it had a flybridge. And for some people that wouldn't be. Also going bigger. So we have a lot more, with each boat we end up with more systems, bigger systems. We have
Yeah.
2 generators now, we have a bigger water maker. I mean, overall, I guess we've had all the same systems.
It's been a progression. The 46 was relatively simple.
Yeah.
Engine, generator, wing engine, water maker. The 50 was the same. End, main, generator, wing, water maker. But then you had hydraulics for the stabilizers. And then this boat is just an extension. Now we have 2 generators, a bigger wing, bigger main, bigger water maker.
Yeah, so
And the whole boat is hydraulic now. So it's just everything kind of kept magnifying. But
it
really,
compounds. Yeah.
once you learn, I guess we're lucky in that we started with a relatively simple boat
Yeah.
and just kind of kept.
It was a good way to learn,
Yeah.
I think, to step up our boats. So that's main boat systems, but then we, with the newer, or not newer, they're all old boats, older, like 2000.
We're biased to the old original Nordhavn line just because they're lower.
Yeah.
I think they're more stable.
Yeah, they're squat.
Yeah.
We do like that. We prefer that. But it adds a lot of interior systems that I've kind of grown. Like the TV is kind of cool on this one. It's telescoping. It hides, and we don't use it that often. But when you want it, now it's like big movie screen size. And oddly, we've never had an ice maker on a Nordhavn until this
All our
one.
sailboat friends gave us crap because we didn't have an ice maker.
Yeah, they're like, you're on a Nordhavn and you don't have an ice maker?
And now we have one.
Yeah. I have a dishwasher on this boat, which I've never had before, and I told Pat.
It's a little RV dishwasher.
Yeah, but I told Pat, I go, well, we're going to take that out of the boat. I'm never going to use that. I've never needed one
And
before.
I said?
I want the storage. It's way more, I need more space. And he said, just give it a little bit and try it. And I'm like, fine, I'll try it. And now we're 6 months in and we're not tearing it out. We're keeping it. God, yes, you're right. See, I'm putting it on video. You don't even have to sign it or anything. But we've got...
One time.
We've got a trash compactor. We didn't on the 50. There used to be one. Somebody took
They
it
all
out.
came with them. They all came with, I think it was a Bosch.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't make them. I don't think you can even get parts for them. So when they break, people tend to just remove them.
Yeah.
James was able to fix ours.
Yeah.
I think it just needed cleaning.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, we, Each boat's had a washer and dryer, but on the 46 it was a combo, a washer dryer in one, and it more like steamed the clothes dry, and they were always damp, and it had to be real small loads. On the 50 we had both, and they were better, but one was in the hallway and one was in the master, and now here on the 57 they're both in one space. We're troubleshooting washer right now.
I think the power button broke on our washer.
It's boat, things to fix.
Yeah.
But it did work before the power button broke. This boat also has a built-in barbecue, which we've never had, and we've actually used it quite a bit. It also needs a little servicing, but it's an old barbecue, 20 years old. So, and then this one's got extra sinks. I think we counted up, we have 6 sinks.
6?
Let's see, we have
Well, the galley,
at least 5.
the cockpit,
The engine room.
and the 2 in the heads.
2 the heads. Yeah. Okay, so 5 sinks. But so again, more things to break, more plumbing to fix. So that's good and bad, the more things that you get. So refrigeration is another difference between all the boats we've had. So how would you describe the difference?
Well, we redid the refrigeration on the 46. We put in vitro frigo, refrigerator, a drawer refrigerator, and a drawer freezer. 12 volt and 120 volt. It's a dual AC/DC system. The 50 had vitro frigo refrigerator, and then it had a drawer refrigerator freezer.
And then we had a big freezer in the pilot house.
Yeah,
a
big
chest freezer.
chest freezer, and we didn't have that on the 46.
Just on the 50.
And then on this boat, the 57, we have it's basically a household sub-zero refrigerator with freezer, ice maker. And then it's got a sub-zero freezer in the salon.
Yeah.
And these are just strictly AC, so they're 120 volts. So they have to run on the inverter or generator or something.
I kind of mentioned the windshield already. We have a very personal preference to the canted windshield. We think it looks cooler. But what you do you lose a little space in the pilot house because the windshield comes in versus our 50 where it went forward.
I think you lose maybe a foot or two, but also the panel space is drastically different.
You can get the 57 with the forward windows, and it definitely gives more space.
Most of them.
I think we found there were 8 for 57s with this windshield, which made it even more desirable for us because we really like the look. But it was just the builder or whichever owner was building.
It was an option.
It was an option to do, and so they did. But we think the canted, definitely in Mexico, we get less heat in the pilot house, less glare because the sun's not shining on it all day. It does still take some water on, we found when we did the Oregon coast again this year, but not nearly as much as a windshield if it were leaning forward.
Well, yeah, when you have spray breaking over your bow.
Mm-hmm. Other little differerences, dinghy placement. All 3 of the boats, the dinghies had a hoist that dropped them down. On the 46, it had a really good aft davit.
Well, the davit on the 46, it was a boom, and it was used to retrieve the paravanes or deploy the dinghy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there was a little bit of work involved to redeploy everything. But the nice thing about the 46 was you could do it off either side of the boat.
Yes.
The 50 was strictly off of the starboard side, which is the side you tended to dock on. So it became very restrictive if you wanted to use your dinghy and you
From a dock.
Yeah, if you were docked, it became more restrictive. This boat, it deploys off the port side, the asymmetric side, so there's no walkway there. But the way it deploys, you get it off the swim step.
Yeah.
So
it works out just fine.
And Gilligan.
He keeps making appearances. So anyway, for us, when looking at boats and when looking at Nordhavns, on each of them, we had to kind of look past the, I won't say ugly, but things that needed. We're prepared to do the upgrades and we're prepared to do the work over years.
Yeah, electronics are easy. Upholstery,
I mean, it costs money, but not all of it we have to do right now. So we know over the next few years.
Engines, generators, running gear's good. You know, you're going to replace hoses.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
But the hull has been good. The engines in general have been good. So that's what we've been looking for. And hopefully each boat, like I said, again, was perfect for where we're at. 46 let us jump into the Nordhavn world. The 50 gave us more speed and more space. And the 57 we feel like is our final, our 20-year boat, right? Right? Yeah. Okay, he said that on camera. It's our 20-year boat. It's the one we'll retire boating on. It's comfortable. We'll get it ready to cruise the world, and then we'll get it out of here and go cruise the world and see things.
We'll go somewhere.
Go somewhere, absolutely. So, do you have a favorite of the three? I bet I know what his answer is. What's your favorite, honey?
The 57.
Okay, yeah, that's me too. It's
this boat is a battle axe.
But I don't think that when we first started in this journey that we could have started on this boat.
Well, we didn't think we were going to end up on this.
No, but I think the way we did it, we very much appreciate what we have now, and we've learned so much with the other boats, and we know what we like and what we don't like now. That the way we did it actually worked out great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we're very much happy. So anyway, that's our story. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about these three boats, but we'll answer any questions you may have in the comments. So farewell.
Only in Mexico can we do this.
Okay. So I've got James Knight in the car. I'm running him from our boat over to our old boat, now called Solana. But this morning alone, he's already fixed half a dozen issues on a number of different Nordhavns in the cruise. It's been a busy morning. It's been a busy morning, and now he's going to take off. But I asked him to help out, give his perspective on this one, the difference between the 46, 50, and 57. We're going through a lot of differences, but his perspective, what would be a main selling point on each of those different boats, 46, 50, 57? What do you think?
Well, firstly, I would have taken a shower and a razor to my face if I'd known I was going to be on camera as well.
Sorry about that.
I should have known you'd be doing videos.
Yep.
Yeah, the 46, the 50, and the 57. So if somebody was coming to me to purchase those three different boats, what would my opinion be? Well, firstly, the 46, you know, the first boat that I worked on, the first Nordhavn that I ever worked on was a 46 number 65. And so I love the 46. But as the years have gone by, you know, I've found that 46s tend to, I mean, they're all getting old, right?
They're old boats. 99, yeah.
And so, you know, there are a few really nice ones out there. They're a great boat for a couple.
Yeah.
They're a little slower. There's not very much lazarette space. There's not. I mean, people. Yeah, I remember Marvin who had that 4665. He was going on about how much storage space there is, and there is. I mean, there's lockers and there's. But if you're living on board, and I can't believe that you did that with two kids
and a dog and a cat
and a dog. And a cat.
I don't know.
I mean, talk about a squeeze.
But we didn't know any better at the time, so it was better that we didn't know any better. But yes, we did squeeze. Yeah,
and on a budget, and probably on a budget,
and on a definite budget. Right. But it was the main reason for the next boat.
So it worked for the budget.
Yeah.
People often ask, would you own one? Mm-hmm. And so the answer to that would be yes. I would own a 46. I think it's a great little boat. You see them all over the world. I mean, there's 81 of them, I think. 82 was the last one.
Yeah.
And there's a few now that aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great boat and very, very capable.
Yes.
So that's the 40. A bit small inside for a family of four and animals.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
But for a couple,
yeah.
Fantastic little boat.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people that have owned them for a long time and done a lot of miles on them, crossing oceans and whatever. 50s, not very many of them. 28.
Yeah.
28 of them, I think, or 27.
Yeah.
Of them. I think I was on the last one actually, working on that recently.
Nice.
So more space, bulbous bow, doesn't pitch as much, a little bit faster, much bigger back end, and I quite like big back ends. The
Personal preferences.
the back end has a lot more space for storage, and yes, a better choice for a family of 4, I suppose.
It was better as a 3-stateroom. Yeah.
Would I own a 50? Yes, absolutely. I think a 50 is a good choice. Also, for a couple, still not sure about the family of 4.
It was still tight.
Actually, thinking about it, I'm not sure about a family of 4 and a 57 either.
Well, fortunately, the kids are gone.
We should have talked a long time ago.
No, the kids are gone. Yeah, we should have.
But the 50, yeah, you know, so the challenge with the 46, going back to the 46, is the engine room, and you've got to have good knees, right? Anybody that's owning a 46 has to think very carefully about how much time they want to spend on their knees, because going down to an engine room and doing regular engine room checks can be challenging.
And you've
right?
seen Patrick.
Yes.
He's not a small guy.
I've seen a lot of people that have owned 46s, and I've questioned their sanity. Honestly, you know, it gets to the point where you don't want to go and do engine room checks, because you don't want to be crawling around down there, you know, to get to around the back of the engine and check. Oh, it's not a fun job, right? And it's hot.
Yeah.
So that leads to people perhaps not doing their engine room checks often enough, in my opinion. The 50, of course, has a much better engine room. You're not standing still, but you can sit on the little shelves on the port and starboard side, and you can get to everything fairly easily. I mean, it's a totally different ball game going down there to do your engine room checks. And lazarette space is great. And some of the 50s, of course, have the door that go between the engine room and the lazarette. Some don't. There are differences in layouts. Yours, I'm trying to remember.
There was a door down in the
There's
last.
a door. Yeah. Well, I'll know in a few minutes.
You're going to be on it here shortly. You can go see it.
We're heading down to do a little bit of a sea trial with the new owners. A little bit of a teaching exercise.
Yeah.
So that's the 50, and of course I think the 50 is a little bit better looking, more modern looking, styling wise. The 46, of course, was the first boat, and it's a classic looking Nordhavn, but you know, I think I prefer the look of the 50 and the 57. So onto the 57. Now the engine room, you know, that's a real engine room. I mean, you can walk in, stand around the engine, super easy to get to everything. I mean, you've probably seen my video on a 57 if you're watching this one.
I'll put a link here.
The 57 engine room is one of the best engine rooms, I think, I would say in class for a boat that size. You know, the amount of space, but the space in the engine room takes away from the interior volume of the boat, so you get all that lovely space. And so doing an engine room check on a 57, quite honestly, is a joy to go. You know, I look forward to my engine room checks on a 57. You don't have to maneuver around a hot exhaust. You can get to everything, you can look at everything easily, and you can also go through the back door into the lazarette and check on the steering gear and stuff, which I think is also important. You know, if you've got a boat like a 50 that doesn't have that door in the back, you know, in big seas you tend not to be able to check the steering gear, because you're not going to want to pick up the hatch and look down there for fear of a wave coming in, or, you know, coming through the scuppers and washing water down into the laz. So then you don't do it. If you've got that door, which all the 57s have, that go into the lazarette, then you can easily poke your nose in there, check on the steering gear, check the autopilot pumps, all of that stuff, which again is really important if you're on a long passage. Is this good, or is this?
This is great. No, I'm loving this.
Because I get a bit carried away.
No, people love this stuff. They do. I swear. This is good.
Yeah, I like talking about these boats.
Good.
So, yeah, the 57, you know, by far would be my choice if I had the money for it. But yeah, I would own either of the three, any of the three. But obviously, the 57 is the faster boat. Considerably faster, because on a 46 you're probably cruising around at 6.5 knots, 6.5 knots, 7 tops,
with current and wind behind you,
and surfing. Yeah. So and then the 50 you're probably cruising around at 7.5 knots,
7.5, 8
to 8 knots, and then on the 57, if you're burning somebody else's fuel, like I was recently,
like you did once,
you're roaming around at 9 knots, maybe even 10 knots.
I saw that.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was happy for you.
We were trying to get where we were going.
I know.
So yeah, that's my comparison.
I appreciate
You want
it.
any more information?
No, I think your comparison is super valuable. So thank you.
Bulbous bow also on the 57.
yeah.
And so that, it does change the handling of the boat, It's a forward pilot house boat. Somebody was asking me yesterday, or day before yesterday, about the difference between aft pilot house and forward pilot house. That's, it's an interesting comparison. But I will tell you that I've never met anybody that owned a 57 that didn't love it, and quite honestly would tell me they thought that it was the best Nordhavn ever built.
There you go. We're on it then.
And most people that buy Nordhavns fall in love with them, and it's very rare that somebody buys a Nordhavn and doesn't love their boat and the characteristics that the boat has.
Yeah, true.
I can think of a couple, but it's rare.
Yeah.
So, and definitely not with 57s. Most people that buy them just absolutely love them. So.
And we do. 4 months in, we
It's
still love it.
It's a shame they didn't build a few more.
I know. Yeah, too bad.
But people are looking after them, so this is
Yeah.
good. The majority of people that buy these boats have the money to take care of them properly. Most of them are getting cash injections, like yours, and it's going to keep the value of the boats up. One last quick story. So people ask about the values of these boats. The 57 has held its value very well. Quick example of that, 17 years ago, I shouldn't probably name any names, but you'll probably know who it is. They were on Instagram quite a lot. The boat was Istaboa, and I think they bought that boat for just over $1 million, maybe $1.05 million or $1.1 million. I think it was $1.05 million. And 17 years later, we sold that boat in the mid to low nines. Now, if somebody had have come to me 17 years ago, well, it's actually a little bit more now because I think we sold it a year and a half ago, and said, what will the boat be worth in 10 years?
Right.
Because people often ask me that question.
Sure. Yeah.
Would you ever have guessed
that
it would have
17
held
years.
its value?
That's crazy.
I mean, you can't say that about many other manufacturers' boats.
No.
So it is remarkable how, if well cared for, and most of these boats are, how well they keep their values.
Yeah.
So
good. I'm not selling mine.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Okay.
As they say in England.
Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
That's
Thank
it.
you so much, James. Appreciate it.
I'm going boating.
Woohoo.
Have a great day.